And I so admire anyone who says yes to stepping up at the very last second to step into speaking before a group. That's really amazing. So please welcome Reverend Cathy Norman.
Oh, yes. When Larry texted me yesterday at the last minute, I've got thousands of sermons to choose from. So here I am. This is one of my favorites. It's not like I had to write a new one. It's easy for me. But it's a joy. It's a joy to be here. And it was a joy for me to say yes to Reverend Larry right after. Oh, hi, Al. He goes to my church every once in a while. Yeah, or my former church. That's so hard to say. All that being said, right after I had announced to my congregation that I would be retiring from church ministry, I lost my voice. I got the flu and lost my voice. And so anyway, I respect Larry for asking for help. For me, I didn't have anyone, so I was like this. But I had them at the palm of my hand. I've often thought maybe I should do every sermon that way. Well, today I want to talk about having a simpler life. How many of you would like a simpler life? Oh, yes, lovely. We're all on the same page. And I would like to share a tool or a discipline, if you will, that will offer just that, a simpler life. That if you dare to put this one practice, one simple discipline to practice. Now, just to let you know, as you know, being in unity is not a religion. It's a practice, right? So if you take this one practice and just practice it for one day, that one day will be so easy peasy for you. It'll be simple. The complications of life will no longer pull on you, and you will find this sense of freedom, and there will be this overwhelming awareness of well-being. How would you like to have that tool? Anyone? Yeah, good. Well, usually life is not simple because we're focused on something that we don't want, right? We don't want to pay bills. We don't want to have stress at work. We don't want to have difficult conversations with those that we love. Just waking up in the morning and seeing the don't wants, maybe in your email or on the news or on Facebook or Twitter, all of that can be added stress. You focus on your don't wants, and then what happens? Your emotions start going south. And you notice yourself getting involved in some kind of a reaction, an inner reaction, and soon you find that you are at one with your don't wants. You're resonating with your don't wants, thereby creating a life that seems, well, not exactly simple. But as good Unity students, as I know that all of you are, that you probably already know the truth, and that is that you are causing the vast majority of your problems through your mental and your emotional reactions. But somehow, it is easy, right, to get hooked in and to become one with the problem, just resonate with the problem. You see, each one of us is seeking a state of absolute well-being. But when things trigger us, how do we achieve well-being? When you get triggered by the world around you, how can you get back into well-being? Well, what if I said that you live in your own hologram? Everything that you see is but a projection of you. So let's boil this down to one of my favorite analogies. That of the opening night at theater. And if you are a theater goer, then you know what happens on the opening night of a play. The author of the play has been developing the plot, nurturing the lines of the characters, and giving extra attention to the theme and then the intent of his play over a long period of time. And then finally, it's opening night, and it's the opportunity for for his or her play to just be birthed into being. The author's idea and the application of the talent is now bearing fruit. And if it is a new play, there is this memorable moment that happens sometime in a writer's life after the curtain calls and the players the players then they cry out. Everybody in the audience and the players they cry out, "Author, author, author," and the author hears the thunderous applause for approval. And usually there's this reasonable, just a long amount of clapping that's going on and shouting, and the author rushes down the aisle, jumps on the stage, and steps before the footlights to achieve the acknowledgement and the acceptance of the opening night audience. At long last, the playwright and the audience are all moved by the whole experience. It's all very exciting. Now, how does this apply to you and me and being able to achieve absolute well-being and a more simpler life, especially when we get triggered by those darn don't wants? Well, the answer is simple, really. You are the author. You are the producer. You are the star of your own autobiography. You are in your own hologram. You are in your own play. And many times we call in the cast of hundreds to play in the melodrama called My Life. And in your melodrama called My Life, there are many things that each of us experience. Do you remember your first love? Your first kiss, your first heartbreak, your first courageous moment, marriage, children, divorce, death, jobs, unemployment, a windfall of money. All of these experiences are all episodes in your play called life. And no one stars in these episodes but you. Nothing is separate from you. It is your hologram. Now, I like to use the word episode, and let me tell you why. It is a word that I like because I find myself triggered, if I find myself triggered, by a situation in the play of my life. Episode, at least for me, means that I trust and I accept that this too shall pass. It's not here to stay. Any problem, any situation taking place in the play called My Life has one permanent result on the onset. There is an end to the problem. Have you noticed any episodes that you watch, those of you that are binge watchers? You know there's an episode, there's a beginning and an ending. You know that this too shall pass. It is merely an episode. An episode is just a blip in the radar screen of your life. We have many of them throughout the course of a lifetime, and they all make up a life story. Being that each of us are the authors and the producers and the directors and the stars of our own story, our play, our hologram, have you noticed that we all have the same theme? Getting into trouble and getting out of trouble. Now, think of a circumstance in your life, just for a moment. It's something that you might be triggered by. It's a don't want in your life. Do you have anybody have a don't want? It's like, this is just always here. So when you think of that circumstance, the question is, will the circumstance be an episode, something that has a beginning and an end, it just passes, or will it be calling in the large cast and chorus to a play and a full-length opera? And you get to choose a full-length dramatic opera or just a quick episode. Can you remember an experience that just came and went and it was just an episode? Sure, we've all had those. Can you remember having an experience that didn't leave very quickly and it became a full-length dramatic opera and it even annoys you to this day? Yes, we've all had those, right? And maybe we have it even to this day. And just as an author is able to rewrite a play, so too can you. You may edit, rewrite, change, alter, even remove characters, and I don't mean as in the mafia remove characters. I don't want anyone saying, oh yeah, my minister said that I could remove any characters from my life. However, I am talking about good self-care where you no longer need to spend time with characters that bring your life story down, where there's no sense of well-being in their presence. Now, as author, you can change the environment in your mind to a drama, a comedy, a disaster, a love story, or something pleasant. And here is something to consider. If you believe that you do not have the power to change your circumstances, then not one word of dialogue, not one scene, not one aspect can be altered. You are then stuck and emotionally hooked into the operatic drama of your life. You see, the beginning of any editing or alteration of this play called My Life is to know that it is possible to change something. Now again, just think of that circumstance that you may be triggered by, and just take these words in. It is possible for me to change and rewrite this. Just take that one in. It is possible. Now, some of you are possibly thinking, there is no way for me to change my script. I am stuck in this predicament. I am just stuck and I can't move beyond it. And I would question that thought. We can change things by changing our thoughts and feelings. So the question now on the table is, how do we change a circumstance from a full-length opera to just a fleeting episode? First of all, I'd like to submit to you that you are not only the actor, the director, and the producer of your play, you are also the audience. And when you have gone to theater, when you are watching the play, what's going on? When you're watching a play, what's going on? The job of the actors is to make you feel something. The job of the actors and the plot of the play is to have you emotionally hooked in to what is going on. For instance, look at the play of your everyday life. Notice how you react to the actions of others. Maybe you had to deal with a coworker. Maybe you had to deal with an ex-spouse or a family member. One moment you're happy, the next moment you're sad. One moment you're victorious, and the next moment you're frustrated. One moment you're depressed, and the next moment you're elated. All as a result of viewing your life from the actor-audience point of view. Now hang in there with me. We're going to get even weirder here in a second. I would submit to you that when your mind and your emotions rise and fall based on how things are in the world, then you are not viewing your life from the best seat in the house, the balcony seats. This is where you view life from an elevated consciousness, from higher mind. And it's called the power of noticing. You want a simpler life? You want to live a life of well-being? The balcony seat is your power seat. The greatest example of this comes from John chapter 8:3. I will be giving this story of the Bible according to Reverend Cathy. We all know this story, and it is a wonderful story that is giving us a guideline to absolute well-being, and this is how it goes. The scribes and the Pharisees bring a woman to Jesus who was taken into adultery, and they are in judgment, right? They are really in judgment. They're in their full-length dramatic opera, and they want to get Jesus hooked in. And they start yelling, "She's Miss Loosey-Goosey, she has broken the law," tempting him to get engaged in their plot. How many times do you have people in your life that tempt you to get engaged in their plot, into their full-length opera? Do you know of anyone? Yes, everybody's, yes. And then they go on to say, "Now Moses in the law commanded us to stone such a one, but what sayest thou?" And Jesus, bowing himself down, wrote with his finger on the ground, which is a perfect symbol of losing self-importance. And he did not react. He did not get engaged. He did not hook into the drama. Energetically, he's leaning away. When therefore they continued asking him, he lifted himself up. Remember that phrase. He lifted himself up, and he said to them, "He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a first stone." But they, hearing this, went out one by one, and Jesus alone remained, and the woman standing in the midst, Jesus lifting himself up, said to her, "Woman, where are they that have accused you? Hath no man condemned thee?" And she said, "No man, Lord." And Jesus said, "And neither will I condemn you. Go and try not to be so loose." It is the law. Now, this is a familiar story to all of us, right? But here he does something that we should all do. It says he lifted himself up. Twice says that. He lifted himself up into an elevated consciousness, into higher mind. And that is the way of true noticing and looking at your life from the seats. In his book, The Tethered Soul, Michael Singer talks about how to elevate your consciousness when something triggers you. He says at the moment when your mind starts to chitter chatter, you know, the little maniac in your mind that so wants to make your life complicated because it's addicted to drama, you know, that little voice, and you have to decide, do I really want to step into this right now, or do I want to make this into a full-length opera in my mind where I go into suffering? What do I want to do? Do I need to solve this right now? Or am I willing to lean away, go to the balcony seat, and simply notice and let the energy pass by? And the key is, it always passes by. This too shall pass. Okay, so now I want you to imagine with me that you pull up to a familiar intersection, the one at which the same homeless person is usually stationed. The light is red, and you stop. She has a cardboard sign that's asking for money. Perhaps some mornings you give her $1 and think and feel whatever you usually think and feel. That the government should do more, that she should get a job, that you speculate, you know, what might have happened in her life, you know, where did she get those new tennis shoes, what does her mother think, and perhaps you're grateful it's not you. And just notice how your attention quickly moved from the person on the street, who just is, to the chitter-chatter maniac in the mind, usually some version of what isn't, or what is should be different, right? Isn't that what we usually do? We see something as it is, and then we start thinking that it should be different, and attaching many stories to it. And that is where suffering begins, my friends, thinking that something should be different than it is. And notice that much of the conversation that goes on in your head is meaningless and has absolutely no significance. The thoughts in your mind either make you feel bad about what you're seeing, or they make you feel good about what you're seeing. Now, if you're in the balcony seat, if you're viewing from higher mind, noticing is having your attention on just what is. Are you following me on this? This morning, let's imagine you pull up to that same intersection, and your normal responses don't show up. As you look through the window of your car, you simply notice this person, the way that the light shines through her hair, the shape of her face, the hole maybe in her shirt, the brown paper bag that's resting on her knee, and the crumpled part that's maybe just leaning to the left a little bit more than the right. This morning, everything you notice, you accept without wanting it to be different. There's no judgment. There's no story. It just is. You notice the unwashed hands, the pale skin, and the new tennis shoes. Perhaps your window is open to hear the morning sounds, and you hear the seagulls just kind of making their squawking noise, the traffic nearby. You let your attention include all of this in very practical and also a very sensory way, not making it other than what it is and just appreciating what is. You're all noticing that, right? Congratulations, then. You're giving effortless attention to what is exactly as it is. In noticing her on the sidewalk, you're not wishing she were someone else, someplace else, or that someone should do something about her. Your attention is just on her. That is living from the balcony seat, my friends. That is living from higher mind. Now, deep into this noticing and accepting, imagine this homeless person now looks up and she sees you noticing her. Do you know what she sees and feels? She feels appreciation. This appreciation has no agenda, no internal dialogue, no spin, no story. And you can do this with anyone or any circumstance that might be a key player in your life. There might be people in your life that are on your stage and they are acting their heart out to try to get you triggered, and all you're doing is noticing from higher mind. Just begin by noticing them, accepting them, and when you notice them without just distortion or judgment. This is the basis and unity principle of a simpler life, a life of well-being. And it is from this place that you will receive a spiritual ovation crying, "Author, author!" And there will be applause and there will be admiration and praises for your actions, your deeds, your accomplishments. And at the end of the play called My Life, you will hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Well done." Let's just take a moment and take this in just a little deeper. Just take a look at your life and where you are in that play called My Life. And if there is any kind of drama, just elevate yourself. Go to the balcony seat. Just see it for what it is. There's no story, there's no agenda, there's nothing to analyze. It just is. And when you are in higher mind, you don't need to know the hows of how anything is going to happen. You don't have to dwell on the don't want. Right now, all you need to do is let go and allow this loving God to do its magical work. And so, dear God, for this wonderful principle and tool that we will put into practice, we are so very grateful for the simpler life, a life of well-being. And so it is. Amen.